Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. You know, these days I have to ask myself, where does the time go? Because we are back with another fabulous episode of the Her Voice Shines podcast. I am your amazing host, Shanasia Washington, streaming from the beautiful city of Houston, Texas. And today I think we have a good one because I really feel that this is going to be a lesson type podcast. And I'm so excited to have this wonderful lady here. And you know, we waste no time around here. We get our guests on the stage so they can tell us their name, where they're streaming from, and what's next, guys. We jump right into their story. So without any further waiting time, here's my amazing guest.
Hi, Shanasia. I'm so excited to be here. My name is Julie Duncan. I'm streaming from Winchester, Virginia, beautiful state of Virginia. A little hot right now, but that's okay. And so my story really began at the age of 17. I sat across from my high school guidance counselor and he uttered 5 words that changed the course of my life. You are not college material. Is that in screen? I didn't have a plan B. There was no other option in my mind other than I was going to college. I had been a student of my beloved grandmother and her stories since I was a little girl. She went on a train to Penn State University, which we know it now. It was Penn State Teachers College during the Great Depression. There was no way I was going to not follow her footprints. I was going to be a social worker and I was going to earn a 4-year degree. Now, Mr. King, my guidance counselor, wasn't totally wrong when he said those 5 words to me. On paper, he wasn't wrong. I was very drawn to my friends. I had a close-knit group of friends, and I was pretty much a party girl. So he wasn't all wrong, but he didn't give me any options. He gave me one option. The option was to be a manager at the local Burger King where I was working during high school. That was not on my radar whatsoever. And I wasn't going to have it. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind. I was really struggling with self-esteem, self-worth. My identity was kind of like you're never enough. I had just kind of adopted that through the years. And as a struggling teenager, to hear Mr. King say you were not college material, the bottom dropped out for me. My soul just kind of like dropped. I knew in my heart of hearts that if it was going to be, there was not Superman coming to save me, I was going to have to buck up and I was going to have to make it happen. The other part of this is my mom was a single mom, earned a little above average, minimum wage, and financial resources. Oh my goodness, how was I if I would even get accepted, how would I even come up with the funds to do this? So I dug deep at age 17, the deepest I had ever dug in my whole entire life. And I didn't listen to Mr. King. I went into the guidance office and I found an application to the university I wanted to go to, and I filled it out. And I threw caution to the wind, and I was accepted on a conditional basis. And what that meant was I needed to be in good academic standing by the end of the semester. Okay, game on, let's go. We're going to do it. The problem was I walked on campus with the voices in my head that Mr. King had put in there, and then I had owned myself. Not good enough, lack self-esteem, self-doubt. But I knew that being a Burger King manager was not my future. So I was really hungry to make it happen. So I dug really, really deep. And one the things that I knew, like being with my friends, all my friends out partying, I had to say no, and I had to find courage to sit in the library with all the highlighters imaginable, because remember, I was an underdog. I didn't put time into academics in school. With my notebooks and with my highlighters, I said no to the party scene, and I dug deep and I dug in. And at the end of the semester, I sat in front of my guidance counselor and he said, "Congratulations, you're a fully enrolled student." But I knew that my hard wasn't over. That was really, really hard that first semester. But I was an underdog. I had, 3.5 years to go. So I did what I needed to do, and I graduated with a 4-year degree in social work. Very proud of that as I speak it today. But I'm going to be honest, it was 4 hard years because I didn't do what I needed to do in the beginning, which was apply myself in high school. And then about 10 years later, I had the opportunity presented to me to go to graduate school. Oh, no, I don't know that I want to repeat that again. I just spent 4 years, 4 of the hardest years of my life. But there's some interesting things about digging deep, finding courage, and going through some of the hardest times in your life. What I realize now is that I had some emotional strength that didn't have when I was 17 years old. I had built up some emotional stamina. I had built up a lot of mental stamina, and I had emotional resiliency. So I said yes to graduate school, one class at a time, worked full time, commuted 3 hours. Again, choose your hard. It was really, really hard. I did it over 5 years, and I graduated with my master's in counseling psychology 10 years later. And I always say, I'm not anybody special. I'm not anybody extraordinary. I'm really no different than any of your listeners. But I was hungry, and I believed it was possible because my grandmother was my ultimate role model, her being able to go to, Penn State Teachers College in the Great Depression. So I learned a lot of things about myself along the way, and I've been really, really, really blessed, and I'm very grateful to now be able to work with women and empower women through my life coaching program and take a lot of that mental resiliency and that mental stamina and be able to pay that forward. It's truly a gift. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm a certified master life coach, and I have an LLC in that arena. So that's kind of my story.
And it's a good story, Julie. So first we have to say thank you for not listening to Mr. King, right? Let's talk about the magic there, because there is magic in there, because sometimes sometimes about the advice that we follow, but sometimes it's about the advice that we didn't follow.
Yeah.
That sometimes really, really makes the magic. So I'm so happy that you shared that with us. But when we were preparing for the interview, we discussed these methodologies or this kind of really, I guess you can say, education that you have around success. I really want you to share that with the audience. I want you to break these points down for them and really, really kind of weave that into your story for success. And I'm going to let you just kick it off with point number one, because I think these are all worth us hearing. And also to Julie Lynn, her level of expertise and experience to these particular pillars. So Julie, I'm kicking it off to you for pillar number one.
Okay, thank you. And I have to give credit where credit's due. These are not my own points. These are from Les Brown, who's been one of my mentors for many, many years. So the first one, if any of your listeners know Les Brown, they know that one of his famous talks, and I think he even wrote a book specifically dedicated to this, is "It's possible." We have to believe in all of our defeats and all of our trials, all of our tribulations in life, that it's possible. I believed it was possible, not from Mr. King. I believed it from my grandmother, who did against all odds in my eyes. The other part of my grandmother's story is that her mother had died when she was 3 years old. So her father raised her, a farmer, rural farmer with 7 kids, and he raised all those children. And somehow she navigated the world of going to Penn State Teachers College on a train, all the resources it would take. She navigated all that. And so if she could do that, I could do that. Who is your role model to show you that something is possible, that is your dream and is an aspiration? Find people to show you that it's possible. The second one is it's necessary. It's necessary to go and dig deep beyond just what your options are. We can't just say, okay, I want to do this, and it's going to be super easy. I knew it was going to be necessary for me to sit in that library, copy my notes. I had to dig deep to become academic, which I didn't do in high school. So I knew that it was necessary for me to take all the steps so that I could be successful. It's very important that we understand that. It was necessary that I find the funding for that I work on applying, get the resources that I needed. We can't just sail through life and want big things, but not do the work that's necessary along the way, right? And the other one was, if it's going to be, it's up to me. Again, Les Brown. Oh my goodness. I knew Superman wasn't coming to save me. When I was holed up in that library, when I first started those classes, I'm going to be honest with you. At first couple of weeks, I thought, oh, I'm just going to call my mom, tell her I was joking. Like, I want to come home. But my why was so big that I wasn't willing to do that. And I knew it was up to me to do the work, to do the test, to go to class, not party, say no when I needed to say no. The other last one is, it's hard. It's not going to be easy. I love the saying, we can do hard things, right? Les Brown teaches that we need to understand and embrace the hard. Okay, it's hard, but do it hard. And man, those first 4 years when I was such an underdog, they were not easy. It was not a walk in the park. But I had to embrace it hard, and I had to move forward no matter what. And the last key to success that he talks about is, it's worth it. I knew that in the end, means to an end, it was going to be worth it to have my 4-year degree. And then I knew when I started again, as hard as it was, and as much as I was like, gasping, do I really want to create this again? I knew it would be worth it. So knowing those things, when you're faced with adversity, things are against the odds, those are keys to success. And Les Brown really expands on all of those key topics. And if you're not familiar with him and want to learn more, you just simply go to YouTube. He's, many videos of him. He, against all odds, he filled the Georgia Dome with like 80,000 people, and he was scared to speak for 14 years. So he's a force to be reckoned with.
Okay, those were a power 5, and I think they were great. So what stuck out to me, for one, you said that Superman wasn't coming to tap you on your shoulder to save you. And so many people, especially women, who are waiting on Superman. Both Julie and I are confirming
he doesn't exist.
Julie and I are confirming that he's not coming. So in that, you should take that. What are you going to do to save yourself? And you get the analogy all the time, even when you're on the plane. They say secure your oxygen mask before you help the next person.
Yes.
Take that in from those 5 things. And the other thing is you talked about that really I'm walking in now. I feel like you said, embrace the hard. Embrace the hard. It's going to be hard. It's worth having. It's going to be hard. So I have to remind myself, Shanadra, every day, there's different things changing. You find yourself having to learn new every day. You feel like you want to think it's always a shift and pivot, but it's going to be hard. Yes. If what you want is out there and you really, really want it, I guarantee when you get there, it will be worth it. It will 100%. Be worth it. You can stand it and it'd be worth it. So thank you for that. In this, Julie, you spoke so highly of Les Brown, and thanks for bringing his name up here. In case anybody in my audience has not heard of him, I of course have. But what it teaches me is that you're a coach that has a coach, right? Mm-hmm. A coach that has a coach. I want you to talk about the importance of mentorship. I want you to talk about how mentorship has played a significant role in your success, because I tell people at the stage in my life, I can't afford not to have a coach. I can't afford not to have a mentor. So I want you to speak from your place of mentorship and how mentorship has influenced your career thus far.
Yes. Oh my gosh. There's so much to say about that word. So last July, a friend of mine was suggesting that I transition from my counseling psychology work into being independent, being an entrepreneur and being a life coach. And I was all for it initially. Like, I love the idea of being my own independent boss, being an entrepreneur, but I've never been a life coach. And I was like, oh my gosh, it kind of like took me back to that age 17 fear, lack of courage, that identity. I didn't identify as a life coach. So I really had to do some soul searching around, how am I going to get there? How am I going to feel super comfortable being able to talk like we're talking today, talk to clients, being able to guide them and lead them? Even though I had a wealth of experience, I didn't know how to package it. I didn't know how to bring it all together. I've been really lucky. I'm in a mastermind with Tony Robbins and Dean Gracioso, who are two of the leading experts to me on coaching, motivational speaking, et cetera, et cetera. And man, has that helped me to be able to bring everything together from, my packaging of life coaching, my speaking, just so many levels of what we do as coaches has really helped me bring that together. And then tapping into people like Les Brown and understanding that things are possible and how the 5 keys to success that I talked about, helping to empower other people. Those are all things that I needed. And man, I am so grateful that I've had some of the greats to follow. And really, I've just followed them. Something comes up on YouTube, I listen. I say I worked on myself harder than I ever have jobs through the years because I kind of started out as an underdog, and I've always felt like I always had more to do, more to learn, and more to be. And I've always been really hungry to learn. I feel very fortunate that I'm hungry to learn more. And these are people that have gone before me. And what do they say? We're the product of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So I don't have in my everyday world people like Tony Robbins, Les Brown, Dean Gracioso, but I can tap into them every single day, whether it's through a YouTube, whether it's watching something on my mastermind group. I'm co-author with Les Brown. I'm tapped into the book that he's going to be releasing in about a month. So I've just put myself in that arena because I intuitively I don't know all this stuff intuitively, and I've never been a life coach before. And I've had a year to really grow and morph into who I wanted to be and who I wanted to become so that I can empower and be the best I can be for other people. And really, that's what it's all about, right? Being the best that we can be with people that have gone before us.
I love it. One of the things too, especially as you go into the life coaching arena, sometimes it's hard for especially women to pull out their life experience as kind of worthy education, right?
Yes.
These things
Yes.
are happening. Yeah, you have like the school degree and all this kind of stuff, but I'm just talking about real life stuff. So sometimes when I sit down with women, I'm like, well, what have you accomplished? And they give me all of this stuff that's related to the career and the degrees. And all. I said, no, navigating the space of life, because that's when you can
Yes.
really understand your journey. I want you to talk about that piece of understanding your journey and kind of pulling those other pieces out, because you've already given us some gems. You talked about your grandmother, all these things. How has that just played a role in like the life coaching piece? Because when you start to sit down and pull out life, that's when you realize you have so many lessons that you may be, I call it being selfish, because I said all this stuff that you have built all this time and you're not going to share and tap another woman on the shoulder and say, this is how you do it. I want you to talk about that experience and just give us a piece there from your own personal learnings and translating that into life coaching.
Oh my goodness. Okay. So the chapter in my book with Les Brown is called Coming Full Square, kind of a play on coming full circle, right? And that's really what life coaching has done for me. Pretty early on in my life coaching stage, Les Brown opportunity presented itself. So I sat down and I wrote my story. And writing my story was the key. I can't express it enough. The key to pulling out all those pieces. And yeah, book smart, we can go to school, but when we can really tap into who we are and who we've become, we can really make a difference in other people's lives. And I feel so grateful that I was able to do that through writing out my own story. And there were lots of pieces of that. Naturally, when anybody writes out their own story, there's so many pieces of that that we might not be intuitively aware of. But if we start writing it out, oh my goodness, there's this, there's this, there's this. So that's what happened to me. That was really the pivotal point of turning everything around so that I felt like I could start to give back and I'm a knowledge broker, I say, be able to share all the things that have happened with me, how I turned that around, and then pull in the mentors along the way. But I would encourage everybody to sit down, write your story out, and exactly what it is and why that has meaning to you. And how are you going to use that in the future? And that's really what I was able to do. And I feel really grateful.
Yeah, I know it's life changing because I had the same process. When I started to figure out what are these things. I mean, even leading up to like this very lunch, it was like, what are the things that you do
Yeah.
the best, and where in the earth do you want to put it? And it sounds like a simple statement, but doing that self work is really, really
Yes.
where the transformative change happens. And I
Mhm.
said, anytime that I can stress that and be in a place to tell a woman that, I am going to give it. So that self-work is and that self-working through could be the key to you living really a different kind of life. And I just want to share
Yes.
that.
Yes.
So
Yes, for sure.
so to me, Julie, it seems like you're taking this thing and you're walking it out. You're getting the mentors, you're writing the books. Where are the challenges now? What kind of things are maybe keeping you up at night, or what kind of things are you kind of aspiring to kind of do to get over that next hurdle? Talk to us about that.
Okay, so I'm putting the pieces in place. I feel like I've been putting the pieces in place for a year now, but I'm starting to really see the fruits of my labor. And so many times I think we get really impatient with that whole process, but I'm trying to step back, look at what I put in place, and be able to marvel at that and own it. And again, really own that it's possible. So that's kind of the bigger piece of it. But in everyday world, I do work full time, which I'm, really working on building up my coaching business. And I really want to break into podcasting. I love telling stories. Um, Tony Robbins teaches change your story, change your life. And to me, it all starts with our stories. And just like you're teaching today, our stories are who we are. And if we're struggling, if women are struggling, if they can understand how their story, how they can use their story, change their identity, they can really change your life. They can really transform their identity and move into the next phase if that's what they're looking for. So I see a podcast in my future. I'm not ready yet because I've got a lot of irons in the fire. So I'm open to learning about that. I'm open to scaling. I really want to do group coaching. I want to build some courses. I haven't done that yet, but I see that in my future. And things are just kind of one step at a time. I used to say I would dive into the pool and I didn't even know if there was any water in there. And I have pulled back. I don't do that anymore. I take it one step at a time. I'm building my life coaching business. I see podcasting in my future where I'm facilitating. I see courses in my future that I build and really adding value to the marketplace. But I understand that it's kind of one step at a time. So I'm pulling back now, which is good for me because, again, jumping in the pool and going, oh my gosh, there's no water in here. How did I get here? I'm drowning. So those are important pieces for me. And I think they're important pieces for professional women in leadership, just to pull back, take it one step at a time, master one thing at a time, get really good, scale from there. So that's what I'm doing now.
I love it. So when you get the podcast, call me back. I'll be a guest. Okay.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
I'm
Absolutely.
just, I'm
Yes.
just saying, Julie, let me know. Good. I want to shift here briefly because we have this coaching and mentorship piece, which is great. And this is something I'm still finding a challenge. So I always have to ask my guests. It's the networking piece that's kind of, I think, another part of the puzzle that gets tricky for me because, believe it or not, I talk about this often on the podcast. I'm actually a very strong introvert. It's easy for me on the podcast because I'm in service mode. I can talk and I can facilitate stories. That's what I do. But outside of this, I say in my real life, Julie, um, I'm really just a bookworm that wants to read and be a researcher. And if I could live life like that, I probably
Oh
would. But
my.
I know that I'm aligned for a certain purpose and I have a certain gift. So I have to balance that.
Yes.
I have to balance that and do the thing, and then of course retreat to that natural state that I just love to be in. So it's a heavy balance for me. Networking has been a challenge for me throughout my corporate career. I left corporate in 2021, so it was a challenge for me to network, specifically in that space for a variety of reasons. And then now that I've stepped into this entrepreneur space, it tries to creep back in, like this whole networking thing. Like,
Yeah.
who should I be talking to? Who should be in the circle? But I'm learning and getting better.
Yeah.
Any piece of advice about networking and how networking has played a part in your journey?
Oh my gosh. So I would never I would never believe that you were a little bit of an introvert, I must say. But networking is so important. I always say business people need business people, like-minded people need like-minded people. So, do what you're comfortable with. But oh my goodness, no. Networking has opened so many doors for me. I would never be where I am today had it not been for tapping into like-minded people, whether it's Facebook groups, taking it offline and having discussions, whether it's, hey, let's network. I want to hear about what you're doing. And then, of course, share a little bit about what I'm doing. It is imperative. I'm a people person, so it's easier for me. I have FOMO. I don't like to be left out. In case you didn't know that about me, that's what got me to college and beginning. Like, oh no, I'm not staying back here while all my friends leave. But so that does help me. But I do have respect for people a little bit less, extroverted than I am, but a little bit more introverted. But no, I think it is essential no matter what field you are in. Again, we're the product of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So imagine the connections we can make if we get out of our comfort zone, be able to tap in, tune in to people that might have some differing thoughts, some differing opinions, bring some other wealth of information to us. There's a whole world out there, and everybody is so unique. Nobody has the same fingerprint as us. There's nobody in the entire world. I'm hungry to meet all those people because everybody brings a new perspective. Everybody has their own talents. Everybody has their own gifts. So if we have the mindset that there's other people out there that can help us and we can help them, oh my goodness, we can really change entrepreneurship in my mind. So I think it's super important.
Yeah, and that perked up for me because that piece of like knowing someone specifically that's very, very different from me always drives me. And I say I've gotten some really, really great advice and support from the most unlikeliest of candidates, right? It's been they be the most unlikely people, but because I have that ear and I'm kind of just hungry to know, like, why do you tick that way? Or how did you get that information? It helps me in that space to where I want to be introverted, but then I'm getting such a good view into someone else's life and they're giving me their story, sometime in exchange for mine. Powerful stuff, Julie. I'm just telling you. So thank you for touching on that. I know you've already told us about the book. If there is a place where they can find out more about it, if that's available yet, please share it. And then also let the viewers and listeners know where to find and connect with you specifically if they need to.
Okay, wonderful. So I will have a link to a website once a book's released. I anticipate it to be over the next 3 weeks. So I could certainly share that with you. And maybe you can link it to your podcast. So that's forthcoming. And I'm on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. My website is julieduncancoaching.com. And, it's a place to just free consult. I offer free consults. Anybody ever wants to have a conversation with me. I love connecting with people. So those are the best places to find me. Julie Duncan, Facebook, Instagram. I have Facebook pages for my business, Empowering Life Coaching and Consulting, LLC. I have business pages for those as well. So I'm out there and I'm easy to find and I love connecting to people.
I can tell, Julie, you give me the vibe that that you would welcome that with open arms. This is the part in our show where we give you your final thoughts. If someone was to skim across this, if nothing else from this interview or this time here with Julie, what would be your final thoughts?
What would be my final thoughts? Are you asking? I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're curing to your final thoughts. So if someone was to skim across this and they maybe even just caught this piece of it, this is your opportunity to close with those powerful final thoughts about this experience with you or anything you think is the best to leave in this space with Julie.
Okay. That's a big question because I have a lot of thoughts, but really what comes to mind is believe that you are possible. Les Brown teaches it's possible, but what if all of your listeners believe that they were possible? What a difference it could make in their life.
Well, Julie said it. You have to believe that you are possible. And both of us are sitting here as women who I believe are believing that we are possible. And we are acting on that, and we're getting the help, and we're getting the resources. So when I bring you guys these fabulous guests, I always show you in live motion and feel that they are doing the things and putting the things in the earth. So this is why this space was created, to have real natural conversations. And I'm just so honored that Julie spent some time with me on today. Of course, it's been another fabulous episode of the Her Voice Shines podcast. I'm your amazing host. Remember to let your voice shine, and we will be back with another amazing episode next week. Thank you.
Absolutely.